In this lesson, we'll begin drawing the fence for our site. Alright, so there's a few adjustments we can stand to make. We're making some pretty good progress now and things are really coming together, but at this point I want to clean a few things up. So we created our thicker line here, and when I scroll in you can see we've got some issues with the placement of this. So really all we need to do is account for that thickness and make sure everything is lining up. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to move my lines up so that my line works a lot cleaner and they don't have these gaps here that can maybe potentially cause some confusion on how this reads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this grab point here. We'll make sure this bottom one lines up. It does. We'll grab the grab point at this point. I'm simply going to click and drag to where it matches. So we have clean line work going all the way around. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to move this guy over 1 inch. So we'll go 1, enter. That should have lined up nicely. We'll do the same thing here. I need to move this one over as well. So we'll grab this grab point, click and drag and snap. So we're really cleaning things up here. Clean line work is going to be key to making this thing much more readable. So let's do the same thing to this side. I'm assuming this has the same issues, and it does. So now we're going to select it, we'll move it. I'm simply going to click it and drop it where it needs to go. Grab this top one, we'll move it here as well. I believe this one can stand to move over too. So I'm going to select that side and move this one over 1 inch. So let's see how things line up on this side. I could probably move this over. I'll probably just line that up with what's going on here. I don't think that's 1 inch, but we'll come in here and measure, see how far we need to move that over. And that is 1 inch, so that'll be easy. So I'm going to select that, grab this, move it over 1 inch. So things should be lining up. We'll check and see what's going on across the street and also behind our house here. So this one can move over as well. So I'll grab its grab point here and just snap it into place with this line, like such. So things should be looking a lot better now. Things should be lining up much better. And I'm assuming these are just fine since they're all thin lines. And they are. So now that we have things cleaned up a bit, let's start drawing our fence. So it's going to be really important that we show this on our site plan. Anytime you're submitting a site plan, the city wants to know these type of things. What's on the site, you know? So let's start with our fence. We're going to keep it simple with some simple lines at first, and then we'll kind of, make it look a little more realistic. So my first line goes from that corner, and it doesn't exactly hit the property line. The fence is built into the property line just a bit, so we'll just drop right there. And then all we need to do is take our line and move it on up this way, because our fence will actually be going through the backyard as well. So again, I'm going to fall short of the property line here, assuming that this fence is built into the property line just a bit. Do the same thing on this side. And we'll kind of loosely finish this off here, down here on this end. And this one will actually finish off right about at the corner of this building. Right about there. So now I'm going to take a line and take my fence, shoot it across this way. We can clean off these ends here. So now we have a basic area that's going to represent our fence. Now I wouldn't just leave it at this. This can be a little bit confusing. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of structure. We'll have some posts and some panels to this to make it a little more realistic. And what I'll do is I'll start it out, I'll show you how we get it done, and I'll finish it, and in the next lesson we'll move on to the next topic. But here's how I can go about getting this done. So you just got to make a couple of assumptions: the thickness of your panels, and also their basic dimensions, but also your posts. So I'm going to assume that these are about 1 inch thick, so we're going to offset 1 inch, like so. And I'm probably going to just stick it and create this one, and I'll copy and paste anywhere it needs to go, just to keep it simple. But I'll show you how we can go about creating our fence. So now, really, all you need to do is we'll come in here, we'll create a small line, and I'm going to assume that all those panels are 1x6s with a space in between each one. So it can be a little bit tedious, but it's going to look good. So I'm going to offset this one 6 inches. What we can actually do is we'll offset it 7. We'll account for that. We'll do 6.5. I'm sorry. We'll account for a ½ inch gap in between each panel. So we'll say 6.5. So we'll try that one more time. We'll go offset 6.5, enter. Now I'm just going to offset this line to create each panel in plan view. Just like that. Now your dimensions for your fence might be a little bit different, but this will be what I'm working with for mine. So, and you can always go about looking for dimensions for fencing. You can go online, you can get this kind of information from lumber stores, just anywhere really. Anywhere you can learn about construction. So I'm just about done. I'm going to keep going with these guys. The trick is to make sure when you click it, you actually drag it past where it's going to be. Otherwise, you're going to get double lines because it will automatically snap into its original position where you're doing it from. So you can see I'm actually selecting the line. You can see where it's going to be, and I just go past that to make sure I don't get any double counting of lines or any extraneous line work. Alright, so I'm going to stop there, but once we have that in place, now I can create another offset. So you know that these were offset about 1/2 inch, so we'll do another offset. This time I'll say 0.5, and I'll shoot them off this way. What this will do, it'll give us the effect that there are gaps in between each panel, and it'll just make it look like a little more realistic looking fence. Now you can create a really simple fence, maybe even making a line with a certain line type, but I find that sometimes that can be a little bit confusing depending on the complexity of your site and all the things you're trying to communicate within your site plan. So sometimes I just like to go ahead and draw out what is there the best way that I can in plan view. So I'm going to keep offsetting these to represent the gaps for our fencing. And now all we need to do is get our posts in place. And I'm going to assume, that kind of come up with they're square posts. So we'll say that they are 4x4s. So we'll say 4 tab 4, enter. Now I can grab my post and place it wherever it needs to go. And we'll place this one here in the corner. And we'll probably make some additional adjustments a little bit later. Let's actually do that now. We're going to move that over an inch, so to allow for the thickness of that panel. So we'll go move, and I'll shoot that over 1 inch. So later when we come back, or when I come back and finish off this panel, I can do that. So now I'm going to assume that, this fence is built at 15 feet panels. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to copy it from its center point, and I'm going to go 15 feet. Actually, that might have been too much. So we'll say, we'll assume 5 feet. Well, we'll say 6 feet. We'll say 6 feet. And do the same thing here. 6 feet. And it should have hit it. It's not doing it for some reason. That's why it's copying multiple ones here. So we'll erase that one. I'm going to select that one, and we're going to copy as well. And we'll do 6 feet for this one too. So we'll go 6 feet. And we'll place one right here in the corner where it needs to go, so it provides structure for this fence. I'm going to grab that corner and drop it off right about here. So now that we have those in place, all we really have to do is go in here and trim out the interior here. So I'm going to select these two. We'll go trim, enter, and I'm going to trim off these lines to create that gap so that when we do look at this, it reads a little bit better and it definitely looks like a fence system. So what I'll do is I'll take this approach and I'll finish off the rest of this fence system for us throughout our property. I will not create a fence for the surrounding lots. It's really not necessary, but I definitely want to show how our fence is on our existing lot. So I'll take care of that tedious process, and in the next lesson, we'll start adding basic building blocks to represent the surrounding buildings around our site here.